The senator representing the good people of Kogi Central, Senator Akpoti Natasha, have denied expressly the rumors making the round that she has apologized to the Senate and the Senate President Godswill Akpabio over the sexual harassment case she instituted against the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Natasha vowed to pursue her case to the optimal level, noting that there was no amount of intimidation that will bully her to submission.
Joining us now is Oji Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Junix.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. How are you this morning?
Good.
Perfect. Good morning, Ayo. How are you this morning? Perfect. Good morning, Rufai. How are you this morning? Very good. I was really proud of that letter that was written by Nana Kazauri. I mean, really condemning what Segun Showunmi did, and which was quite apt that, you know, you don't talk to a woman like that in public. The sort of misogyny that we see in Nigeria is completely unacceptable. And we hope for an apology from Segun Showunmi. We don't allow that sort of language on Arise News.
Thank you.
Well, kudos for your good manners. Well, all right. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending. As reactions continue to trail the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, and the rising tension over a possible collapse of democracy in Nigeria, former President Olusegun Obasanjo on Monday said that democracy in Africa has failed. He criticized a system that facilitates corruption and injustice, where the people in power accumulate wealth illegally while the masses suffer. Obasanjo made the comment at a colloquium in Abuja to mark the 60th birthday of a former governor of Imo State, Emeka Ihedioha. Let's take a look.
So if you are talking of democracy failing in Africa, democracy in Africa has failed. And why has it failed? Because it didn't have any in context and in content. It's not African. It does not have any aspect of our culture, our way of life, what we stand for, what we believe. Ubuntu. I am because we are. It is I am because I can grab. What sort of democracy brings you and you grab everything and then illegally, corruptly, and you say go to court? When you know that even in the court, you cannot get justice. Democracy is failing. Democracy is dying.
I am because I can grab. That's what he's saying. The democracy in Africa, that's how they're practicing democracy in Africa. Well, at a panel discussion during the same event, the leader of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, said that Nigeria's democracy is collapsing over the suspension of the Rivers State Governor, Fubara. Peter Obi recalled how former President Olusegun Obasanjo attempted to intervene when the Anambra State House of Assembly impeached him as governor in 2006.
I became a governor through the court when President Obasanjo and Atiku were in government. I did not pay the court one error. I was sitting in my house in the office, and the court declared me winner. When a governor is not sued, it can happen in Nigeria today. When I was being impeached, the president sent people to come and intervene on my behalf. Ken Namani came begging house people not to impeach me. Today, the president impeaches the person. So that is the thing that is they were begging my house not to impeach me. And they were in PDP. I was in Africa. And they were begging. President was calling me and said, Peter, are you okay? Well, even when I was impeached, President Obasanjo called me and said, are you okay? Are you safe? When I go back from the court, when court eventually declared me under Ndimba, President Yaradua called my phone in London and said, congrats. I said, President, I can't come back because, you know, if I come back, these people, He said, tell me the flight in which you're coming back. And I told him, when I came in the first time, military people came to receive me at the airport. I couldn't believe it. I took me straight to him. Now the president will ask me not to come back here again. So insane. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about how we are going to rebuild it. It's collapsing.
Well, all right. Let me take a reaction from Bayo Ononuga before I come to you. Well, he wrote on X. I listened multiple times to former Governor Peter Obi's statement in this clip where he claims that democracy has collapsed in Nigeria. His hyperbolic remarks, suited for headlines, have been made without deep reflection and a lack of solid, logical foundation. How can a democracy that has strengthened over the past 26 years be said to have collapsed? Only a discontented and disgruntled Peter, who benefits from the very free speech democracy provides, could perceive such a democratic downfall through his lens. If democracy had indeed collapsed, as Peter claims, and we were living under a regime antithetical to democratic principles, he would not have been able to make his comments on Monday at Emeka Ihedioha's colloquium. I will urge him to watch what he says and restrain himself from playing to the gallery. Is this a gag on free speech? I mean, free speech is our fundamental. But I mean, by your Ononuga's comment, I'd like for you to highlight some of the points that he made there in terms of whether or not Peter Obi is asserting himself properly, or what you think about his comments about democracy collapsing in Nigeria. Ayo.
Interesting take from Mr. Bayo Ononuga, and I'm glad to finally see a response from the president. I was expecting such. Earlier on, I don't think we hadn't taken this angle to the story.
Yes.
With Mr. Ononuga's position, he actually goes to further prove what Mr. Peter Obi was saying.
Yes.
A democracy is, well, I wouldn't go as far as saying that it has collapsed or it's collapsing. I would rather toe the line of it's a work in progress. Unfortunately, I don't know how far the progress you would say has been. And I'll just ask simple questions. Number one, the fact that this thought or idea that, oh, we're doing you a favor, that we're not coming down on you, you can speak freely. Freedom of speech, like you rightly said, is guaranteed by the Constitution of Nigeria. It is the right of every Nigerian. It is not bestowed on you. It is not a privilege. It is your right as a Nigerian citizen to express yourself in such a manner. And then if you want to even analyze how free freedom of speech has been under this administration, in only 2 years, they've come under a lot of criticism for their intolerance to feedback. And only just look at the example of the lady with the NYSC girl, the young Nigerian who came out to complain, not because she belongs to any party, and she was swooped down by NYSC and NYSC staff themselves. We've talked about people who were picked up because they insulted the president or laid curses of the president, and sometimes there's that blurring of line between culture and what is the law in terms of, oh, how dare you speak to your elders. At the end of the day, every Nigerian above the age of 18 is an employer of the elected president, because if you went to vote, part of your votes was used to employ who is sitting as president today. Then going to say that, I just want to ask a simple question in conclusion. If you look at how democracy started, talking about him saying we've made progress. And so the question is, are we really making progress 26 years down the line from 1999, where we came from military rule to civilian rule? How fair or how much freedom did press people have, or even Nigerians have, in terms of freedom of speech from 1999 till now? You'll be the better judge of that. People have talked about how people were able to express themselves under Jonathan's administration, even under President Obasanjo's administration, who was a former military person. People have also talked about the state of the nation, our systems, our institutions, the judiciary, the legislature. It's the 10th Assembly that people have criticized to say, perhaps this is one of the worst assemblies we've had in recent times. The 10th Assembly has been said to be rubber stamped again and again. Is that in the spirit of true democracy? So there's some critical questions we should ask. But finally, I must say, it's enough for us to stop talking. A lot of these conversations that have been had and views expressed have been expressed for so long. It's time for us to roll up our sleeves and begin to get to work to restore Nigeria to the true democracy that we want to see. And if we're going to see that, we need strong institutions. We need a review of the 1999 Constitution. We need men who would stand up for what they are saying, and not just when it suits them or their political parties. Well
said. Rufai, I know you have an additional comment from what you made earlier today.
Couple of things. Isn't it just very funny? You see, this democratic thing too is also very funny. I don't think democracy is dying. I just think there's a reign of strong men, and their impunity follows them, because we don't have checks and balances in the system due to poverty, due to prebendalism, due to many factors, illiteracy as it were. But isn't it shocking today that Mr. Bayo Ononuga, whose paper, The News, called, called state of emergency declared by Obasanjo dead, coup in another name.
Coup
in another
name. Yeah.
Yes, that's what The News. Is it not, and all the things he condemned Obasanjo for, his president that is working for today, he's doing them, and he can't openly condemn them again. So you can see the way tides have changed.
Right.
For him to say, oh, Mr. Peter Obi, he can only talk because there's democracy. We have heard a lot of free speech being stifled. We've talked about Rie. What about the people arrested? What about the lady that said she cursed at President Tinubu and she was picked up? So we have many claims like that. But also for Mr. Peter Obi, you see, I keep insisting, the way we have big men in this country that makes it so easy for them to have a winner-takes-all mentality is the problem. I have seen a couple of messages. I'll say, Mr. Peter Obi that is talking as a democracy, when he was governor of Anambra State, he ran the state with also administrator of the local government. Right. And I've taken that question to him many times. He's rebutted a little bit, but there were cases in court. So when you look at it across board, there's always a latitude to be able to do these things. The question is, how can we slim down that latitude?
Yes. Because
the same Mr. Peter Obi that said Obasanjo fought for him, when he was impeached, the same Rashidi Adewolu cannot say the same of Obasanjo when Adedibu did impeach him. I know of that incident because I was around about that period. I know what happened. There was skirmish, there was fights at the parliament in Ibadan that day with a lot of thugs. So the same Obasanjo that was like good to him, Adewolu Ladoja cannot say that was the same case with him.
All right.
So it's both ways. But the question we should ask is, why is it that men that were once called defenders of democracy, people like Tinubu, are now those against the tenets of democracy today?
Right.
Why is it that men like OBJ, that in their time, they could have done it better, they didn't do it better, they violated those tenets, and now the Cape Crusaders today. That's what we should fix in this country.
Yesterday we took a story of a former Lagos State Governor, Fashola, who called President Bola Ahmed Tinubu a champion of democracy. But it is important that we continue to foster democracy in Nigeria. And to do that, we need strong voices, strong opposition leaders to continue to challenge the government of the day. Now let's head over to Edo State, where the state governor, Nnamdi Kanu, on Monday pledged to secure Edo State for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's re-election in 2027, promising to deliver all 18 local government areas for Tinubu's second term. Kanu spoke during the flag-off ceremony of an expressway in Benin. He praised the president's commitment to infrastructure, saying that Edo State is gradually developing like Lagos. Let's take a look.
This is a legacy project. When I say Edo not be Lagos, we say no, now Edo not Lagos. So the good things that is happening in Lagos is now happening here in Edo State. What can we say? Thank you. Baba, thank you. Tell Mr. President, we will even take our campaign to other states on his behalf. 2027 is a big deal here. It is sealed for Mr. President. It's not negotiable. 18 over 18. We have 18 local government. When I meet 18 over 18, we are going to deliver for Mr. President.
All right. Kanu there, going to deliver Edo State and probably other states to Mr. President come 2027. Dr. Vati.
Okay.
Over to you.
Number one, Governor Nnamdi Kanu. It's very good to see him, flagging off the construction of, I think, Isbini-Asaba Expressway. That in itself would help a lot of travelers, people going to the east, and if completed, the people will benefit from it. And I think that it is projects of such nature that Governor Nnamdi Kanu should be concentrating upon. He became governor just in 2024.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is it even up to a year?
No.
And he's making it his priority to deliver 18 over 18 local government areas in Edo State
Just
to
like
President Tinubu. That should not be his priority. It is the people of Edo State who should decide how they will vote. By what alchemy, strange alchemy, is he in a position to say he's going to deliver? Because when politicians say they will go and campaign and all that, they probably mean something else. I think he should first of all justify his election by serving the people of Edo State. And I align that with the observation that it's too early in the day to begin to say a governor that has even not spent a whole year is making campaign for the president, his priority. It's marks of, what do they call that word again? Sycophancy, bootlicking. What does this my brother call it? Political krunkum krakum. Obayagbo. You know Obayagbo. It's Patrick Obayagbo that talks about krinku krinkam. Whatever that means.
Political iberiberism.
But in any case, we should just be serious. And this is the point we were making about the challenges of democracy. Whether President Obasanjo says democracy has failed in Africa, or Mr. Obi says democracy has collapsed, or is collapsing in Nigeria. I made a point that the major problem here is leadership recruitment process. Yes. The kind of people who lead in many of these African countries, they are not fit and proper persons. And that is why we have problems in many of these countries. Look at the problem they had in Niger. Even the military people that came to take over, they had the support of the people because the people were saying, look, we have been suffering under the yoke of bad governance and French neo-imperialism. In the other countries also, whether it's Gabon or it's Guinea or it's Mali, it's also complaints about, governance. What we need is to begin to prepare a generation of leaders who will not grab, as President Obasanjo was pointing out, who will place the greater emphasis on service. But this alimentary politics that we seem to have in place is the bane of the democratic process in Africa, in Nigeria, and other African countries. Because the problem, really, even when we talk about the domestication of, the democratic process or homegrown democracy, if you look at the original values underpinning democracy, we don't have leaders that promote those values. That is what we should address, in my view. And Okwewolo, I repeat, should pay attention, to the work that he has been given by the Edo State people. And he should leave it to them to make their own choice in 2027. After all, freedom of choice is the pillar of democracy. Yeah. It's not for anybody to say this is what will happen in 2027, either in your hamlet or in your state or in your local government. Leave that to the people. Govern well, then the people will make up their minds.
Well said, Dr. Abati. Now let's take another story. Senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has urged the public to disregard reports claiming she had apologized to the Senate, labeling them as completely false. In a statement released on Monday, Natasha insisted that she will not be intimidated into silence. Let me read her statement then. She wrote, I, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, stand firm in my resolve to never apologize for speaking my truth. The desperation to silence me is palpable, but I will not be intimidated. The games being played in full view of the Nigerian people will be exposed, and the corrupt individuals who have hijacked our institutions will be held accountable. As a senator, I have a duty to represent my constituents and uphold the principles of justice and transparency. My allegations against Senate President Godswill Akpabio were not made lightly, and I will continue to seek justice and accountability no matter the cost. I will continue to fight for the rights of Nigerian women and ensure that our voices are heard. I urge the public to ignore the viral report claiming that I apologized to the Senate, as it is entirely false. I will continue to stand by my truth and fight for what is right, even in the face of adversity. Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Well, in the meantime, the Federal High Court in Lokoja had vacated an interim injunction that barred the Independent National Electoral Commission from accepting petitions to recall the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The court initially granted an ex parte application by 5 registered voters who alleged that the recall petition contained fictitious signatures. However, the order has now been lifted, reaffirming the constituents' right to initiate a recall process. The case is set for further hearing on May 6. Meanwhile, registered voters from Kogi Central have petitioned INEC in Abuja seeking to recall Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, while leader of the group known as Concerned Kogi Youth and Women, Charity Omole, said they have lost confidence in Natasha because of her alleged gross misconduct at the Senate. Let's take a look.
Nobody is sponsoring. It is concerned citizens who feel that we cannot afford not to have a senator for 1 year in the Senate. You know, 6 months in the Senate is 1 year. So that's why we're saying instead of having a vacant seat, we are recalling her back home so that the INEC declare the seat vacant so that we can elect someone who prioritizes the people than ego.
Well, all right. I mean, I believe that the petition has been received by the court March 24th. But Ayo, Rufai, we did see this picture that is now trending on social media. I'd like to pull up that picture of this Charity lady. And it's a picture of her with former Kogi governor, Yaya Bello, who actually basically gave Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan problems during her election time. And now we see this man with this woman in this picture now circulating online. I don't know what that connotes, but obviously Nigerians are asking questions. Meanwhile, we also saw a video. I think, Rufai, you were the one who posted that video on X. I saw that video of, you know, showing signatures or people gathering in one location. If you can pull up that video, showing them basically looking like they are signing. I mean, what is actually going on here, Rufai? Because I saw this on your X account.
So, I mean, those are some videos that have come out as regards people allegedly in a part of Kogi, and it was said that people are filling out registers, you know, for a recall. So what has apparently happened is that, you see, nobody is saying Akpabio is right or wrong on this sexual harassment issue. All we have always called for is, please, he who alleges must prove, and that can only be proven when you have an investigation set up. So I've heard a lot of legal experts say, oh, it's not the case of the Senate, they should take it. Wherever they are going to investigate the case, they must be able to investigate that case. And Natasha must also give her evidence. If she is found wanting, I will be the first to come here and berate her. All right? Senator Akpoti must give her evidence, just like Mr. Akpabio must be allowed to give his evidence. But I think it's the offshoot of it that is now very hard. The fact that there were court violations, all of a sudden the process leading to her suspension, and now, all of a sudden, because of sexual harassment case, we're having a recall. Yeah. There are two factions. That lady, I think I've been able to check through the ranks. They say she holds a governmental position or something, you know, and she has definitely alliances. We've also heard some intelligence that have come out that have said the plan was orchestrated by some top political actors to be able to recall her. So the question will be, why trying to recall her over, you know, this back and forth that is going on between her and the Senate president? So there's a level of high-handedness. The shocking part now about the recall is, please correct me if I'm wrong, I hear the total votes that they used to win the election, because it was a very neck-and-neck election, I'm not sure totally was up to 105 or 110,000. All of a sudden, they are claiming that they've gotten over 250,000 signatures or over 200,000 signatures. So you are wondering what's really going on here. Also, the judiciary has been brought in. I have a story I've not independently verified, that the judge that first gave the ex parte has now recused himself as regards this recall case. Because guess what happened, Oji? Senator Akpoti went to court to be able to get an ex parte motion to be able to stall the recall process. Yeah. The judge granted it, but as at the next day, he had rescinded his decision earlier. So a lot of people are wondering what is really going on here.
Those are the questions.
All we just want is fairness in this matter. We are not saying Senator Natasha is right or Senator Akpabio is right. All we just want is fairness and non-high-handedness.
Right.
That's all we are calling for.
Meanwhile, before I come to you, we saw hundreds of Kogi Central residents who took to the streets this week in support of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The protests were triggered by the attempts to recall the senator. The demonstrators carried banners that read, "Natasha, pride of Kogi Central, and we stand with Natasha." Let's take a look. All right, Kogi residents there. But let me just take this story still in Kogi State, where a bazaar empowerment program by a minority leader in Kogi State, Idowu Ibikunle, has set social media buzz. Well, in the video making the rounds, Ibikunle was seen handing out one motorcycle tire each to his constituents in his local government area as part of his efforts to empower the community. Let's take a look. What's actually going on? Kogi State, what's happening here? So what's going to happen to the second? I mean,
so I know that motorcycles have two tires.
I thought so,
at least
too.
Giving them empowerment for one.
Yes.
They have to go and source for the second. So it's part funding or match funding.
Oh, part funding.
Match funding. I give you one tire
yes.
to show your seriousness. Look for the second tire. These are the kind of things you say are the problems of democracy in our nation. Whereby a lawmaker who should be recalled. There are some lawmakers that should be recalled. Like, tell us what you're doing for your people.
Right.
And so in his assessment or in his report to his people, he will say that I did empowerment program and I empowered people. I would like to understand the research that he did to understand that the greatest need of this community is one tire for their mom. Maybe a lot of them say they have issues with one tire on their bikes. I just really want to understand the reasoning behind this.
Well, all right.
But this is, I mean, jokes aside, just going to Senator Natasha's case, the truth, I mean, I'll just say this, that the woman who is against her is a senior special assistant on youth and women mobilization in the Ahmed Governor Ododo. Yes, she's women mobilization. I wish she would use her influence and powers to really mobilize women for good and for good things in her state. But here we are. If she thinks this is priority, let's see how this will end. But quite interesting.
Well said. Well, all right. We'll take another story now. Over the weekend, Ekaite Unoma Godswill Akpabio, wife of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, has been conferred with an honorary doctorate in education management at the University of Calabar during the institution's Golden Jubilee celebrations. Well, the university praised Ekaite Akpabio for her philanthropy and advocacy for women's rights through her NGO, the Family Life Enhancement Initiative. She was also recognized for promoting women's inclusion in governance during her tenure as Akwa Ibom's First Lady. Well, in celebration, her husband, who was also honored as a Grand Ambassador of the university, planted a kiss on her lips as she received the honor. Let's take a look.
By the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the University of Calabar, and in accordance with the provisions of the University Statute, I confer on you the honorary degree of Doctor of Educational Management, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges attached thereto. Congratulations, Madam. God bless you.
I go love. Oh, I mean, it was so beautiful to see that picture. That picture has been circulating on social media. It's good to see the Senate President and his wife out there. I mean, it just shows so much love. But I wanted to take this story as well, to tie this together. The Senate President gave a testimony of how God saved his wife from a terminal illness. In this video, Akpabio stated that his wife was on life support and doctors had advised him to pull the plug, but that his family's unwavering belief in God endeared a miracle. He stated this during a dedication of a chaplaincy at Pope John Paul School Shelter Afrique in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. Let's take a look.
The woman behind me had a health challenge in 2016, and she was in a coma for 6 months. And the doctors called me and told me to authorize them to take off the life support so she could go in peace. And I refused. 2 weeks after, they called me again and they said if she had 98% chance of dying, that she now had less than 2% chance of living. So why waste money? I did something extraordinary. I came to set up a committee for the burial. She was in Germany. And when I came, I went around my compound. Then suddenly I sighted the grotto of Mother Mary. She doesn't like me telling the story. Her tummy was open for 6 months. The intestines were placed inside a plastic bag. I made a sign of the cross here, made a sign of the cross here, then I did on the leg. I didn't allow the doctors to see me. I told the doctor, when I come, I'll take off I will authorize to take off the life support. But I want to do it in the presence of our first daughter. So I'll come back tomorrow. So I traveled to London. As soon as I got to London, in the evening, my phone rang and I picked it. They said that she was shaking. I said, what happened? She was trying to wake up. And they kept shouting that it's a miracle. They don't understand. So, my dear, I can see why God brought you back. Continue to be yourself. Continue to turn souls to God. Continue to affect the lives of future generations. And I know in your little way, you are turning Nigeria, Africa, and the world into a better community.
This was so beautiful to see, I swear. When I saw this video, it touched my heart. And I hope that it touches our viewers' hearts as well, because, I mean, it just shows a different side of Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Please take it easy on the love.